Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm your host, Stephen Nooner, and I'm excited to introduce our guest today. Jamie Crosbie, founder and CEO of ProActivate, is here with us. ProActivate helps organizations build strong sales teams. They employ about 15 people and are based here in Dallas. To learn more about ProActivate, please visit proactivate.net.
You sure about that?
Positive.
You didn't look very confident.
Well, you know.
Welcome, Jamie. We're glad you're here with us today.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
We always start off with what we call wisdom of others, and I picked out a special quote for you today because you're a sales talent acquisition firm. You're
Bob's
all about sales. And this is from a guy named Steve Black. I don't know Steve Black. Haven't a clue who he is, but
vacuum salesman.
Could be. So he said, Samson killed 300 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass. You don't have any idea where this is going, do you?
It's biblical. That's good.
That is good. Samson killed 300 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass. Many salespeople kill sales with the same tool.
So true. So true. I love it.
Love that quote.
I love it. It's a good one.
I saw another one. It said, radio show co-hosts sometimes kill.
No, they're just an F. I think that's all. I think it's just stopped right there.
We like to start off with just something unusual about our guests. So tell us something that maybe not everyone knows about you.
Well, it's kind of ironic since we're here on a radio show, but I was a broadcast news journalism major, and so in college at KU, we had an opportunity to try out for a local cable talk show. And so I was a talk show host. It was not part of our college experience, but it was just in the city of Lawrence for KU. So I was a talk show host for a new talk show in the city, and it was quite fun.
What were you talking about?
It was actually, well, we kind of joked. The newspaper article said Oprah for teens. So teen issues, drunk driving, selecting colleges, the music you listen to, just some really serious things and some just fun things, but teen issues essentially.
Half hour, how long?
It was an hour.
Wow.
It was an hour, and it was on twice a week. I had a co-host that was a gentleman who was about 35, and they were trying to make it seem for the teenagers that we were a couple. Although, just, kind of.
And you're in college.
Yeah, I'm in college.
A little creepy.
Yeah, it's a little creepy.
A good gig for
but we
him,
were not a couple at all. So
I'm going to go Google that show.
Yeah.
What was
no,
the name?
I'm not telling you. I have the CDs if you ever are really bored one night.
Oh, funny. That's great.
But it was fun.
Well, now we're in big trouble, too, because we have a professional in here, so...
Definitely not. It's been several years.
Right?
We've never claimed to be professional in our conduct or our capabilities.
Perfect.
Well, so...
That would be boring.
So you're that kind of major, and now you have a sales talent acquisition company. Help bridge that gap for me. How do you go from one to the other?
Well, so I was a broadcast news journalism major, as you know, and I did several internships in that industry thinking I wanted to be a talk show host. And then I realized I did not want to earn poverty level income on the news stations. And honestly, through the experiences of my internship, I just realized that it wasn't exactly what I had thought. So I had an extra semester in college because I had graduated early with some honors classes, and so I minored in business. And my first job out of school was a leadership development program. I was very entrepreneurial. I knew I wanted to be someday owning my own company. And so from there, it was at the Federal Reserve Bank, their leadership development program, which was very boring for me. They had a great recruiter who said it was not government, and it was very boring. So I was in the accounting department.
That seems like
It sounds like just a rager. I can't
Doesn't
imagine.
they put you in an area completely unlike you to round you out. I was so rounded out that I headed out and got a different job in the staffing industry. And I specifically targeted that industry because there was so much growth opportunity and young leaders, and it was entrepreneurial. And so that's how I was in the staffing industry, the traditional staffing industry, for several years, leading sales and operations, and then eventually left and went to Career Builder and became vice president of sales, and saw a gap in the market with both of those models for sales leaders to really protect and propel their revenue. So created ProActivate to fill in those gaps. Wrote a business plan for an entrepreneurial leadership class and won in the business plan contest and said,
Wow.
I'm going to do it.
So I have to ask a follow-up question to that, because you might be one of the only people that I know that wrote a business plan before starting their business.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I had to.
does your business look anything like what your business plan you wrote?
So the value proposition does,
Okay.
but the rest of it, not exactly.
I mean, I just know
Yeah.
so many. It's like they saw a problem, they just kind of jumped in, and then next thing you know, they've got a
They
business,
had a business.
and problems come from that too. But it just seems like that's the more common way. So
It is. It's for sure the most common way. I think because I was in this class and it was on entrepreneurial leadership and I had to write a business plan. I knew I would always start my own company someday, but that did propel me to get it together. And then when I won in the business plan contest, I was motivated,
Yeah.
and it was just time. So and I, at that time, it was 12 years ago when I started ProActivate. I didn't have kids yet, but I knew that someday when I did, I didn't want to be traveling the 90% that I was traveling. So I
Right.
thought I better get this going now. So
it was the timing was of the essence.
yes.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I mean, it's so much so. I mean, my degree's in entrepreneurship, and I know
Wow.
two people that I graduated. And I mean, and I didn't know everybody, but I know two that have the same degree, came out same year as me, that have their own business, and most of them have taken different great positions, executive here or there or whatever, but two have actually started companies. I just found that interesting.
Interesting.
So, Jamie, have you done anything with that business plan since? Have you?
I have. I've revised it and looked, back into it. Of course, at that time, again, I didn't have kids. I'm like, we're going to go here. We're going to have 10 offices. We're going to be in all these cities. And what's interesting is we have done a lot of that. We have just done it in different ways. So we work globally today, but we are physically headquartered here, and we don't need to have offices everywhere, but we do have talent managers spread throughout the country that handle different markets. And so, yes, I've reflected back, because our value proposition and our go-to-market strategy and all of those things are really in place today from our business plan. But we've definitely shifted things around and learned and,
Sure.
Have grown.
So what's unique about what you guys do specifically? Because I know you have a little bit of a different model.
Sure, yeah. So there are a couple things. Number one, just in and of itself, the focus on sales and sales leadership and just revenue generation is unique in our industry. There are companies that do it, but specializing in it and really understanding the art and science of it is different. Salespeople are selling themselves constantly, so to really be able to qualify them, you have to invest a lot more time to dig under the surface. So one of our biggest differentiators is our qualification process. It's an 1.5 to 2 hour in-depth customized sales qualification process that is really specific to their company. And part of that process is really interviewing some of their top performers and building that into the profile. But most traditional recruiters, let's say, which we don't even necessarily call ourselves that, but in the traditional sense, they're spending 15 minutes going through a quick qualifying process, slapping some resumes, and our model is just different. The other differentiator is our talent managers are not paid on placement. They are paid to provide qualified interviews to our clients, and that is important because it preserves the authenticity of the interview process.
So they're not commissioned, you're saying?
They are not. They are bonused based on quality.
Okay.
But they are not commissioned on placement.
love
And
that.
it's intentional, because the biggest complaint VPs of sales and CEOs have is these people show up and they sound rehearsed because the recruiter coached them on what to say to get the job. So and then the other big differentiator is we are dedicating resources and guaranteeing results. So traditionally in that relationship, when you work with the recruiter, you hope they're going to send you people, but there's no commitment on either side.
Right.
We dedicate a talent manager to the search, and we guarantee 3 qualified interviews within a few weeks that match that profile. And our ratios suggest 1 out of 3 are hired based on our ratios, but we guarantee the hire. So if for any reason that's not the case, or someone doesn't accept, or something's atypical, we continue to provide additional interviews until the hire's made. So they know it's handled. We really see ourselves as an extension of their internal sales organization.
How do you measure for drive? Because I know there are lots of really great salespeople that have the natural ability to have those conversations, but what I've found is a lot of the really successful people year over year are the people that have the work ethic to kind of keep following a process, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great question. So you call it drive, and I agree it's drive, and sometimes I refer to it as the it factor, just that fire in the belly, that grit. And one of the things, so you can talk, kind of on the art side of that and find out, and that's why you do the behavioral interviewing, to kind of dig into their life and see what they're motivated by and driven by. But one of the things I think that is less common for people to dig into is asking them specifically what their formula for success has been. So like you just said, they have a process. So my thought is, there's some successful salespeople, but they got lucky. They got a big deal, or they got some leads thrown their way, or something came to them. So asking someone's formula for success and digging into that tells a lot, because you can go run a marathon and get your best time, but if you don't know how you did it, you're not going to probably do it again. So I love to find out if they know, well, I have to get this many leads to get this many qualified leads to get this many people on the phone to yield 8 appointments a week, which leads to this many deals, and here's how I do it again, because then they have a replicatable formula for success that can go add revenue at another organization.
So who is your ideal client?
Well, for us, it's a sales organization that either is growing or expanding, or, they just, by sheer numbers, because sales is the lifeblood of an organization, they are going to have a consistent need because of turnover. And that's not necessarily a negative thing, but just on average, sales turnover is 30%. So if they only have 40 salespeople, let's say, within the entire organization, they're still going to need help on a monthly basis, on average about 12, for the year, to need help. So it's the companies that are growing, or just by the number within their sales organization, they have a consistent need to look at sales talent. And
so you're not just looking for a company that has 1 or 2 salespeople and you just fill one spot. You're really looking for the process of
the ongoing partnership, both. I mean, if you say your ideal client, that's what I was describing,
Yeah.
But we definitely do business. We help companies in a number of ways. For some, it is just adding 1 or 2 people. That is not necessarily what we're going to find, but we get those referrals and we're so happy to help them. For some, it's replacing C players with A players. And for some, it's having a consistent funnel of talent to be prepared in case a top performer were to unexpectedly leave. So, it's definitely across the board helping companies grow and expand, or just replace or add talent here and there.
Awesome. And we're going to probably ask a few more questions about that. But before we go to the break, see, I'm not a professional radio person. We're going to ask some questions about what is the high performance mindset. And Jamie's going to teach us how she overcomes major challenges. Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand, and landlords count on this. being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate one, maybe two leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
Hi, this is Jeff Kay with K. Bassman International, Sanford Rose Associates, and Next Level Exchange. We're a headhunting organization, otherwise known as Body Snatchers and Flesh Peddlers, and looking forward to being on the Next Level show and possibly taking it itself to the next level.
Welcome back to the Next Level, conversations that propel business. We're here with our guest, Jamie Crosbie, founder and CEO of ProActivate, and you can find them on the web at proactivate.net.
So one of the things that Bob wanted to follow back up on.
Oh, was I supposed to keep talking? Okay, fine.
Bob needs a confidence boost right here. Bob, go ahead. Ask that question. It's great.
All right. So we've been talking a lot about your business and what you do and how you hire. So what I want to know is, how do you hire people in your own company?
Well, isn't it true that the cobbler's children never have shoes?
Right.
So, no, we do the same thing. But it seems to be that our clients who are paying us get preferential treatment.
Not always the
Sometimes
case.
when I'm looking for a salesperson, my talent managers are too busy to help.
So what assessment tools have you found to be particularly useful in terms of sales?
Well, we have a customized qualification process that is that hour and a half to 2 hour in-depth behavioral interview that we've created. I think assessment tools are great as well, but I tend to look at those as data points versus a black or white hiring decision based on the assessment. We do, when upon request, utilized a sales assessment specifically for sales leadership, and things like that. We as well interview top performers within the organization currently that they want to emulate and build that into the profile. So many companies, though, that believe in the assessments have their own. So we incorporate that as a part of our interview process for them and make sure that we take care of that for them and only consider people qualified and presented to them based on those requirements.
So is your process sort of branded? I mean, you have a name for it, or it's only available, I assume, to clients that do the full process? They can't just carve off that one little piece, right?
In terms of our customized qualification process, yes. No, I mean, we also, through our IntelliSelect division, do some consulting with organizations and help them create a customized qualification process. So it is our own, process, but we help them build their own because it's customized for each client. And so that is something that we're willing to help them do if maybe they just need help initially with a big push for hiring, but eventually they want their internal team to be able to, utilize that process. Mm-hmm. So
interesting.
What would you say would be the biggest breakdown in your business as you've built it that's really ended up turning into a breakthrough?
That's a great question. I think initially, when you're starting a business, you just have that passion for turning the lights on in the marketplace. So you go sell anything. And you're, the consummate issue for the operations team of any sales organization is, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to deliver that? So I think, initially, it was, let's just turn on the lights. And we sold some business the first few years that there wouldn't be a way necessarily to find higher quality people than they could have found themselves just by the nature of that job. Some, B2C stuff and just, I won't name company names, but things that were just more challenging. Not selling knives, but almost that bad, where, door to door. But so I think that was a breakthrough of just being more strategic about how to go approach the marketplace, because we're very well received in the market. Companies, VPs of sales find our model and our approach refreshing, and it makes sense to them because they've had some of the same challenges with traditional recruiters. And then online, it's an abundance of people who are looking, and in sales, you want the people working and winning.
Right.
And so they see that value, but for us to strategically go after certain business relationships that we just know we can make a significant impact and add value. So that's the breakthrough.
So just really identifying your target market and getting really specific. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's one of the highs in your business in the last few years? One of the things you're most excited about or proud of?
I'm excited because we've expanded beyond our initial model of ProActivate and added a division in Teleselect where not only are we helping people attract top talent to their teams, and our tagline, let me just back up, has always been hire the best and upgrade the rest. But a big focus has been hiring the best. So I'm excited to really have an ancillary division, essentially, that focuses on the upgrade the rest. So we can help organizations truly as consultants and really in a true strategic partnership to help them create go-to-market strategies, make sure their compensation plan is aligned with really their revenue goals of the organization and what they're trying to get out of their salespeople, to help determine the structure of their sales organization, whether it's new business versus account management or is all of that combined. And as well, training and development. And that's fun to truly be a consultant with them and help in any area of creating the sales organization, going to market, finding the talent, and developing the talent. And part of that is learning and becoming certified in the peak performance mindset that I have been in the last year. And that's been a true joy as well.
So that's a certification?
Yes. So I have become certified to train sales organizations in peak performance mindset. And a lot of sales organizations, as you know, really focus on tools and skills. But if you really look at, and that's important, but if you really look at what's most significant to the success of all of us, not just our sales people within organizations, but all of us, it's mindset. And so if you were to say, hey, what's most important, skill set or mindset for a sales organization, to focus on the mindset is really impactful.
So there's training around shifting people's mindsets.
Yes, there is.
That's effective.
That is effective. And think about it. Sales, a big piece of it is about developing relationships and people who feel comfortable with someone else. And how do you get people to feel comfortable with you and develop those relationships if you're not comfortable with you?
So what does that look like?
Well, it can look a number of different ways. It's customized for the organization. It can be a 2-hour workshop. It can be a 2-day workshop or somewhere in between. But it is specific mindset development, a lot of neat just exercises that involve them participating. A lot of it is challenging the way we think. And a huge part of it is just awareness of what our mind does. So just as an example, on average, each of us have 60,000 thoughts a day, naturally. 80% of them are negative, naturally. If we just let our mind do what our mind typically does, 80% of them are negative. So it's teaching people, first of all, becoming aware of that. Second of all, teaching you how to reset that mindset and counteract those negative thoughts and make yourself aware of that process. And so we give them specific tools on how to do that. And, a big piece of it too is just having their own vision and purpose and goals laid out. So it's very impactful.
There's a woman here in the Dallas area by the name of Dr. Carolyn Leaf, and she wrote a book, and I can't remember what it is. My wife had me read it. I don't know if I should continue with this story, but
Please
Please do, yes.
her point is that you can rewire your brain.
You can.
Because your brain, every time you have a thought, there are proteins in your brain that reinforce the synapse that goes across that thought. And so the more you think about that, the more it reinforces that. The less you think about something, it sort of kills off those proteins. And so thoughts are actually physical in that way.
Yes.
And so what you're talking about, where they have to change their mindset, may sound a little bit hocus pocus, but it's real.
It is. It is. And I know it does sound like that. And then there's true science behind it.
Yes.
So, and that's part of this too. Part of the training is seeing the science behind it so that it doesn't seem like hocus pocus.
Absolutely. So what have you found? I mean, is there any consistency among these people that you interview on behalf of your clients is there a particular belief or a particular habit or anything that you're finding is the most common thing that prevents their achieving success?
I think truly one of the biggest things is our mind. It's their own confidence, them seeing themselves as someone who can just break through anything and accomplish all that they're set out to. So, you've heard of the sales slump, right? That is in our minds most often. And so that is the biggest.
But do you feel like there's one issue of, I don't believe I have the ability. And then there's the other issue of, I don't think I deserve it. Do you see any?
I think it's more, I don't think I'm good enough.
Really?
Or I'm going to. So one of the things we do one of the first things we do, and I've seen this in audiences of 500 people, and you say, hey, can I have a volunteer? Just randomly, you don't tell them what they're going to be doing. You will get one or two people who raise their hands. And that's it. So we do this, and you get the one person, and you say, here's $100. Thank you so much. You can have a seat, right? And everyone is thinking, okay, I didn't get that $100. So we open it up to the audience and ask them, why didn't you volunteer? Just give me one quick reason. What went through your head right then when I said I needed a volunteer? And what do you think they say? I mean, it's always, well, I just didn't know what you were going to ask. I didn't want to embarrass myself.
I don't want to look stupid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what is all that? That's, I don't think I'm good enough.
Yeah, I was at one of your presentations, and I was kicking myself that I didn't raise my hand.
Well, I brought you $100 today.
Well, good. I'm hand it over.
You might want to hang on to that.
Okay, so in your own company, you talk about, you obviously have sales within your own company because you have to go out there and get clients.
Sure.
You also have leadership
Yeah.
of dealing with your own internal structures and employees and all. How do you balance those?
Well, that is a balance. And I would say, that is one of my biggest challenges as an owner of a business is balancing the leadership aspect as well as the sales aspect. I personally balance it by doing a monthly plan in my calendar and laying out my time. And I have days where I'm just focused on leadership, and then I have structured time set ahead of time intentionally that this is when I'll do client development. And I don't know any other way, because if you just do it at random without being intentional with your time, it doesn't happen for me. So that is, I would say, just that and balancing real life. I'm a single mom with 2 kids, and I want it's my business to be wildly successful, and I want to be an incredible mom, and it's a balance.
Yeah, that would be tough.
That's a tough challenge, and it's awesome that you're up to both challenges at once. I think a lot of people, shift one way or the other, but then they always have regret.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, regret. Well, and then regret will then reinforce the negative beliefs.
Exactly, and I
which
learned that in the
then-
mindset training. You just have to see that you are doing both really well and be grateful for the opportunity.
Grateful. That's a big one. Well, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. We've really
Thank you.
enjoyed talking with you. For our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Jamie Crosbie and ProActivate, please go to proactivate.net. Net, yes. Don't get in the com. Go to the net. If you'd like to learn more about the show, go to nextlevelshow.com. You can find us on all the social media platforms, and we'll be back next week with another great guest.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.